Welcome to RaWMachines, where traditional labor processes are brought to life in the most authentic and vivid way. Today, let's explore the journey of grain harvesting, from checking ripeness in the field to the moment the bundles are stored away. This is not just a sequence of tasks, but a reflection of experience, technique, and the rhythm of rural life passed down through generations. Let's begin. By mid-August, most of the fields in Hunsrück have ripened, though not uniformly. Areas that are damp or shaded by trees often mature later, forcing farmers to meticulously inspect individual sections, rather than relying on a general overview. The inspection process is quite simple. They head out to the fields late in the day, pluck a few grains, and test them by hand. If the grain is still soft and easily dented by a fingernail, it is not yet ready for harvest. If the grain has hardened and snaps when bent, it is a clear sign that the crop has reached the necessary maturity. This method requires no specialized equipment, relying entirely on experience. Once certain, the farmer cuts a bundle of grain to bring home as a signal for the start of the harvest season. These bundles typically consist of both wheat and rye, reflecting the local tradition of cultivating and using mixed grains in daily life.
Ja, dann ist gut, dann fangen wir mal an.
Before the harvest begins, the entire village enters a familiar preparation phase, most easily recognized by the sound of sickles being sharpened each evening. Sharpening a sickle is not just about grinding the blade, but about reworking the entire cutting edge. The blade is placed on a small anvil and gently, evenly hammered to gradually thin the edge. As the metal is stretched, the edge becomes finer, significantly improving its cutting ability. This process usually involves 3 steps. First, thinning the edge to reduce resistance. Next, creating a slight groove along the blade to define a clearer cutting line. And finally, refining the entire blade to achieve uniformity and balance.
Ja, ich bin auch fertig.
After hammering, the blade is not used immediately, but tested. The farmer presses a fingernail lightly against the edge. If it bends slightly and springs back, it is thin enough to be sharp while still maintaining durability. If it is too hard, it will be difficult to cut. If too soft, it will dull quickly or bend during use. A properly prepared sickle significantly reduces the effort required for harvesting and increases working speed. In contrast, a poorly prepared blade can slow down the entire process and even pose a safety risk. That is why this step plays a crucial role in the success of the harvest.
Det skal blive længere.
Das Poolfass müssen wir auch noch raus, oder?
Jo, oder nicht heute kommen. Ah, da kennen Sie doch alle schon. Ja. Ja, da kannst du mal helfen raustun. Ja. Das ist immer so schwer. Ja. Mit dem schweren Ding. Also langsam.
Parallel to the preparation of tools, the storage spaces are also thoroughly cleaned. Barns and threshing floors are swept clean, and unnecessary items are neatly put away. The straw ties for the bundles are made from the previous season's straw and prepared well in advance. Before use, they are soaked in water to soften, allowing them to be tied tightly without snapping. As seen here, groups of harvesters can be observed moving through the village each morning and at midday. A typical group consists of 4 people, with the lead cutter, usually a man, followed by 2 workers responsible for gathering and tying the bundles.
Ja, gut.
The work always begins at a corner of the field, where it is easier to establish direction and control progress. The first cutting lines are usually made diagonally, following the natural lean of the grain, making the cutting smoother and preventing the stalks from becoming tangled. Before that, the edges of the field are cleared to create working space and avoid obstruction during movement.
Die können wir stecken, so viel.
The groups do not stand close together, but maintain a certain distance. Once the first group has moved ahead, the next group begins. This creates a continuous workflow where each person has their own space while remaining connected to the entire team. If one stage slows down, the following stages are affected, making rhythm the most important factor. Throughout the process, there is little need for communication. The rhythm is maintained through habit and experience, from footwork and cutting speed to the timing of gathering the grain. This coordination allows the field to be processed in clear, orderly layers while minimizing loss. At first glance, the harvesting technique may seem simple, but in reality it depends heavily on the coordination between body movement and the sharpness of the sickle. The harvester stands slightly leaning forward, one hand holding the stalks to stabilize them, while the other swings the sickle in a low, steady rhythm. The blade does not strike forcefully, but glides through the stems, using its sharpness to make a clean cut, saving effort and reducing vibration that could cause grain loss. After cutting, the grain is not thrown randomly onto the ground. Instead, it is gently pushed forward, leaning against the uncut crop, forming neat rows. This method not only keeps the field orderly, but also allows those behind to gather the grain more easily, without constantly bending down. Tying the bundles follows immediately in a familiar sequence. A binding strand is placed on the ground, and 2 handfuls of cut grain are gathered and laid on top. The worker quickly wraps the strand around the bundle, tightening it just enough to hold it securely without breaking the stalks. Each bundle is made almost identical in size and tightness, making transport and stacking much more efficient. In practice, conditions are not always ideal. In areas where the crop has been flattened by wind or rain, the harvester must adjust their approach entirely. They bend lower, using the sickle to lift each clump before cutting, slowing the process but ensuring minimal loss. When binding material runs short, the freshly cut straw itself is used as a substitute, twisted into temporary ties. Small adjustments like these show that the technique is not a rigid formula, but a flexible system that adapts to the specific conditions of the field. After many hours of continuous work, the harvesting rhythm slows as everyone takes a break. They choose a sheltered spot, sit down, and quickly eat breakfast, bread, meat, and coffee. The break is short, but enough to restore energy before moving on to the next stage.
Erst trinken wir Kaffee und dann stellen wir uns.
Ja, du denkst, muss einen Kaffee trinken.
Ja. Gut gelebt, denkt mir
Unser einer denkt immer an die Arbeit.
When they return, the tied bundles are not left scattered on the ground, but arranged into small stacks to dry. Each stack typically consists of around 10 bundles, built around a central upright bundle that serves as a core. The remaining bundles lean against each other in a circle, and one bundle is placed upside down on top to cover the peak. This structure forms a shape similar to a cone, helping to prevent rainwater from penetrating, while allowing air to circulate between the layers. As a result, the grain dries naturally without absorbing moisture from the ground. These stacks are usually left in the field for several days, up to about a week, depending on weather conditions. After several days of drying in the field, the grain stacks are evenly dried and ready to be transported. The wagon is brought out early in the morning, usually when the weather is still cool, to make the most of the day. Along with it come all the necessary tools, including rakes for gathering the grain, tarps to catch any spillage, wooden bars for compressing the load, and ropes for securing it.
Haben wir jetzt
også, tænker jeg.
Die will ein bisschen hier achtern.
Jo, nu, se langsomt fik
Ja, streg ein bisschen op.
Before loading, the farmer takes time to inspect the entire wagon, whether the wheels are secure, the axle is stable, and the tie points are strong enough to handle the load. This step is essential because once the grain is stacked high, repairs are nearly impossible to carry out midway. Loading typically begins in the lowest areas of the field. This approach not only makes access easier for the wagon, but also simplifies the exit. Once fully loaded, it can move out along the least obstructed path. At the same time, the collection process is organized by sections, avoiding unnecessary overlap in movement and conserving energy. Thanks to these preparations, the entire transport process that follows can proceed smoothly, continuously, and safely. Stacking grain onto the wagon is a task that demands both finesse and experience, as even a minor misalignment in the initial layers can cause the entire load above to lose its balance. The farmer begins with a base layer arranged along the length of the wagon, placing each bundle tightly against the next to create a relatively stable surface. This acts as the foundation of the structure, determining the weight-bearing capacity and stability of everything stacked on top. Once the base is secure, subsequent layers are laid crosswise in an alternating pattern. This interlocking method locks the bundles together, minimizing shifting while the wagon is in motion. Each bundle is positioned intentionally. The butt ends face outward to provide grip and structure, while the heads face inward to protect the kernels from impact and loss. Throughout the stacking process, the worker does more than just place the grain. They are constantly making adjustments. Small gaps between bundles are filled with loose straw, making the load denser and increasing its structural integrity. Sometimes simply adding a bit of straw in the right spot can significantly improve the stability of the entire mass. Row by row, the layers stack up, growing taller over time. By the time it reaches a height of about 4 meters, the load has become a massive, solid structure, even if it appears soft and prone to shifting from the outside. It is this calculated arrangement that transforms individual, loose bundles into a unified whole, stable enough to traverse rugged paths without falling apart.
Ja, das ist wie Wiesbaden.
Once loaded, the entire stack of grain is secured with wooden bars and ropes. The wooden bars are placed horizontally to compress the load, while the ropes keep the entire structure from shifting. This is a critical step, as the wagon often has to travel over rough terrain. The driver is responsible for guiding the wagon, while another person walks behind to help maintain balance and handle any issues if needed. Thanks to proper stacking and tying, the load retains its shape even when moving across uneven ground.
Achtung! Achtung!
Ja.
This process is repeated multiple times, with each trip carrying grain from the field back to storage, completing the transport phase of the harvest season. As the wagons leave the fields, the labor shifts indoors to the barn. The bundles of grain are passed by hand from the ground up to the loft, where the person receiving them immediately rearranges them into layers. The bundles are not stacked haphazardly. They must be kept both tight and ventilated. They are placed close together to save space, yet small gaps are maintained to allow for essential airflow.
Mach vor die Kette. Ja, noch ein bisschen rüber. Halt, gut, gut.
portion of the grain is separated right from the start, categorized by grain type and intended use, especially the stalk designated for bread making. This indicates that sorting begins during the storage phase rather than waiting for later processing stages. In practice, barn space is sometimes insufficient for the entire yield. In such cases, farmers must proactively process a portion early, such as starting the threshing process to free up storage space. Meanwhile, any grain spilled during transport is carefully gathered to ensure nothing goes to waste.
So, das ist die letzte. Alles.
Once all the grain has been moved into the barn and stabilized, the harvest season is considered complete. From standing stalks in the open fields, everything is now concentrated within a single space, marking the end of a long period of labor and the preparation for the next stages of processing. And so, we have come to the end of a journey, from the standing stalks in the fields to the final bundles safely stored in the barn, completing a full harvest cycle. It is a process that may seem simple on the surface, but in reality, it is built upon a sequence of stages, each playing a vital and irreplaceable role. From testing ripeness through experience, preparing tools, and organizing labor, to reaping, tying, stacking, transporting, and storing, everything is tightly woven into a complete system. If even one link in the chain slows down or falters, the entire progress is impacted. This highlights the profound interdependence between every single step. The key lies in the seamless blend of technique and experience. Even without modern machinery, farmers maintain complete control over quality through simple yet precise methods. From feeling the hardness of a grain to stacking the load for maximum stability and preservation. These are skills accumulated over generations, nearly impossible to replace with mere theory. Furthermore, the entire process reflects a high degree of organization and coordination. Each person takes on a specific role, yet efficiency is only achieved when everyone maintains the same rhythm. This synchronization not only boosts productivity, but also minimizes risks throughout the harvest. In practice, farmers must always remain flexible, adjusting to their environment, from weather and terrain to storage capacity. There is no rigid template here, but rather an adaptable system that evolves to ensure the final result. At the finish line, what remains is more than just grain safely tucked away in the barn. It is the culmination of a season's hard work, fully realized through the harmony of human effort, experience, and nature. A labor process simple in form, yet rigorous and highly effective in practice. Thank you for staying with us until the end of the story. If you enjoy videos like this, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our upcoming stories. This is RaWMachines. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.